It was a little past midnight, and Rajiv had just finished his last delivery for the day. He was a driver for a courier service, often taking odd jobs at strange hours to make extra money. Tonight was no different. He was exhausted, but knew the last shortcut home through a lonely stretch of road called Ghost Road by the locals. They claimed it was haunted, but Rajiv never paid attention to rumors. The night was eerily quiet, the air thick with fog, making visibility difficult. He adjusted his rearview mirror and began driving along the deserted road. The tall trees lined both sides, their branches hanging overhead like skeletal arms reaching for him. The only sound was the rumble of the engine and the occasional howl of wind. Suddenly, as he rounded a sharp bend, he noticed a figure standing by the side of the road. A woman. She was dressed in a flowing white sari, her long hair covering most of her face. She stood still, her back turned to him. Rajiv's heart skipped a beat, but his instincts as a driver took over. He slowed down and pulled up beside her. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" he called out through the open window. The woman didn't respond, but slowly turned around. Her face, pale and devoid of any emotion, sent a chill down his spine. She pointed down the road. "Can you give me a ride?" she whispered, her voice soft but eerie. Rajiv hesitated. He didn't want to leave her alone, especially on this stretch of road, but something about her unsettled him. Against his better judgment, he unlocked the door. "Get in," he said, his voice trembling slightly. She moved with an unnatural grace, her steps almost floating as she slid into the back seat. The air inside the car grew cold as soon as she shut the door. Rajiv could see her in the rearview mirror, sitting still, her head down, her hair obscuring her face. "Where are you going?" he asked, trying to mask the unease in his voice. "Just ahead," she replied, her voice hollow. He began driving again, the fog thickening outside. The road seemed endless, winding through the forest. Minutes passed, but the woman remained silent. Rajiv's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The road signs he usually saw were missing, and the surroundings grew unfamiliar, even though he had driven this route many times. Suddenly he felt a light tap on his shoulder. His heart nearly stopped. He glanced at the rearview mirror. The woman was sitting up straight, staring directly at him. Her eyes were wide, unnaturally dark, and filled with something malevolent. Rajiv's breath quickened. He slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt. "What's going on? Who are you?" he shouted, turning around in his seat to face her. She smiled, a cold, sinister smile that sent waves of terror through him. "I never left," she whispered. "I died on this road. Long ago." Suddenly, her appearance began to change. Her skin grew pale, almost translucent, her eyes sunken and hollow. Blood began to trickle from her hairline, soaking her once white sari. The temperature inside the car plummeted, and Rajiv could see his breath fogging up. Panic overtook him. He fumbled for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. The woman's face was now grotesque, her smile widening unnaturally as she leaned forward, her cold breath on the back of his neck. "You can't leave," she hissed, her voice a twisted echo. "I was left to die here. You'll join me." With a burst of adrenaline, Rajiv slammed his fist into the door, forcing it open. He scrambled out of the car, falling to the ground as he gasped for air. The night was silent again, the fog thick around him. When he dared to look back, the car was gone. No sign of the woman, no trace of the encounter. Trembling, he stood up and stumbled down the road, desperate to escape. But as he walked, the faint sound of footsteps followed him, echoing through the mist. He turned, but no one was there. The locals found Rajiv wandering the next morning, dazed and incoherent. When they asked him what happened, all he could say was, "She's still out there, waiting." And from that night on, Rajiv never took Ghost Road again. But every now and then, drivers passing through that stretch late at night swear they see a woman in white standing by the roadside, waiting for her next ride.